Ah, with me shillelagh under me arm and a twinkle in me eye, I'll be off to Glockamara in the morning. It's been a while since I did a Joycey.
It has been a while. Yeah.
It's
It's
been a while since you've done a hazard.
yeah, or an elbow or anything else.
Yeah. Do you remember that time, Johnny, when the budget was brought down in Canberra and we were down there and we did that budget special? And you were
Yep.
ScoMo. You remember when you were ScoMo? And we had all the guys from the AFA and Roland Crystal and everybody in the house watching
Mm,
us do this thing completely ad hoc, no
yeah.
script.
Yeah.
And it was classic. We were all in fits laughing. I mean, I've got to find that and replay that. That was classic Johnny Larder.
We had a good
Uh, it was so good. ScoMo, you remember he had those false teeth? And don't mind us, everybody. It's Thursday, the 5th of June, and we're feeling pretty chirpy because there's some really good news coming out. And there's a lot to be said for staying diligent, sticking to your target, and keeping the pressure on. Johnny Larder, some great news just in the last couple of hours has come out regarding Fair Work Australia and Queensland Police.
Yeah. Yeah, really good news. I'm really hopeful that this will mean, an avalanche of other police around Australia, not just in Queensland, returning to work. I mean, I'd love nothing more than to see Justin Paul and all his colleagues in New South Wales and every other state be returned because they've done nothing wrong, Hoodie. And I mean, that couldn't be more um, elevated or highlighted or shown to be true than the government's approach to changes of the COVID-19 vaccination recommendations in the middle of the night on June 3rd, which said that nobody under 18 should have one because that cohort of the pandemic were demonstrated to be at minimal risk and at more risk from the vaccine.
Yeah.
Tells you everything.
Yeah, look, it does. That's been a massive revelation through the week. And these findings by Fair Work Australia in regards to Queensland Police. Now, with all of that information, that what happened on the 3rd of June with those revelations in the inoculation handbook, the vaccination handbook,
Mm,
and we've got some celebrities coming out now, in particular Chris Smith, radio host Chris Smith, um, mate, who has done some amazing stuff. Totally honest, upfront. We're going to play a little audio clip of what happened on his show. I think it was yesterday, wasn't it?
yeah, was.
He really let fly. Johnny, the truth is coming out. Now, the reason we're doing an update tonight, we did have a scheduled interview. We were going to interview a doctor. I won't say what field, I won't say what gender, I won't say where they are, other than they're in Australia. Um, but this doctor was coming on to talk to us about stuff that was highly relevant to what's happening around COVID vaccinations, autism, other things like that.
Mm,
Now, because this doctor and a cohort of people that they are working with are doing amazing work for the vaccine injured,
mm.
Johnny, why are we talking undercover? I mean, this is just disgraceful. You and I decided as we were about to go to air with this person, this doctor, that it was not in the best interest of their patients to go ahead with the interview
Yeah.
because APRA are still expected to be coming down on people like this who are doing the work, John, that our health bureaucrats should be organising to be done by our health system, which is not a health system.
Mm, mm.
Now, I'm trying to be very careful here because I don't want to reveal too much, but we're still in a parlous state in Australia where APRA, the reprehensible organisation that it is still got its octopus tentacles
Every
reaching out into society. And for anyone who says, well, that doctor should speak out anyway, no, 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 no. What's the point of having good doctors like that who are working behind the scenes, deregistered, so they can't help the people we need them to help because the government and the bureaucrats won't allow it to happen? We can't do that.
and that doctor was prepared to talk. It
Yeah.
was purely Hoodie and my decision that we discontinued the interview. And we're not prepared to put young lives at risk. This person was essentially working with a lot of young children, and I think it would have been a great tragedy to put that at risk. So that's got to be first and foremost. Their story will come out. We can maybe maneuver around it in other ways. We'll come up with something. Maybe we need to look at a system where we black the screen out and hide their voices. I don't know. We'll have to do something. But
Yeah, look,
uh,
the truth of the matter is, John, everyone will know what that doctor was going to say.
yeah, yeah,
Backing up everything that we've had hundreds of health professionals backing up over the last 4 years on our program. Um, but I want to highlight the fact that we decided not to. It would have been a massive scoop to have this doctor on, but there are more important things in getting a following. This is about protecting people who are vulnerable at the moment, not only the patients of these doctors, but the doctors themselves who need to continue doing the vital work that they're doing. And I can tell you, it's very impressive what we heard off air.
mm,
So that being that, that's where we'll leave that. But we've got look, all this stuff happening with Magda Zabansky. That's generating a lot of information, a lot of conversation. Um, you know, and then we've got the Burnett Institute have come out and said, oh, you're 14% less likely to be hospitalised if you get a flu shot and a COVID booster at the same time. Not because there's a chemical magic that happens when the two come together, John, but while you're at the doctor's, you might as well get them both. I mean, this is a pathetic. Now that was published in the Australian Medical Journal. Now, if that's the kind of rubbish that these people are publishing, based on maybe
mm.
mathematical modeling, it's possible that it could happen that. I mean, if this is a standard of medical journalism in Australia, we're in a bad place.
Well, Hoodie, I'll go one step further and say that the incentivization has to be taken out of the system. Medicine has to be based on what's good for you, and that's it. It should not be based on whether. I mean, I've been told. I don't know how true this is. I mean, I'm only going off what I've been told that shingles vaccine is a $750 vaccine. $750. Now, uh, what are the GPs getting out of this? What's the figure going back to the to the medical practice? I've been told reliably that just putting up a poster, you know, gets a $2,000 bonus from the federal government in relation to the vaccination stuff. So,
You're joking, aren't you?
no, no, that's
Surely you must be joking.
unfortunately not, Hoodie.
No, I'm
This is
not,
what
says
we're
John.
dealing with.
Stop calling me Shirley. Remember that line out of Flying High? Look, we are this country. We are so far behind the eight ball and the rest of the world. Our stupid bureaucrats and politicians are still pushing this jab on people, even though the evidence is falling out of the sky into their laps. Johnny,
Yep.
we had Paul Marrick and Angus Dalgleish, two of the finest critical care oncology specialists in the world, in Canberra, in that building behind you, for 2 days, sitting there waiting to talk to politicians to brief them on what they know.
Mm.
The best in their field. Paul Marrick, the best critical care specialist in the world, bar none, acknowledged by doctors all over the world that have trained under it. And
Yep.
Professor Angus Dalgleish, Professor of Oncology at St George's Teaching Hospital in London. There they were, John,
But
waiting
he
for the
was
Sarah Hanson young.
also an immunologist and a virologist,
Yeah,
Angus English.
Angus Dalgleish, and pathology background as well.
What
There
a
they
chap.
were for the Sarah Hanson Youngs and the what's the other bird's name? The Walters bird who what's it?
Oh, some nut job.
Some nut job. And all the other politicians, Mark Butler, you could have gone and had a personal briefing from two of the best in the world. But you're
Never.
so far up yourself, mate, you couldn't be bothered. And all the people, look at all those people behind John and I, all those people. Uh,
They use Paul Marrick's work uh, as entry to anaesthetics in Victoria, maybe in other states as well. But his work is actually used in exam papers. I mean, that's how revered this guy is. This guy is one of the most revered intensive care specialists in the world, if not the. He's
Johnny,
written,
we spent some private time with both those guys. Could you meet a couple of nicer blokes?
no,
We spent time in New Zealand with them. I think you were involved when they were out here in Australia. I couldn't get down, but
chance.
these guys are willing to give so much. They know so much. Michelle and I had dinner. We were cooking dinner for them every night in New Zealand for a week. And I can tell you that what they were sharing at the dinner table was gobsmacking. I wish I could have recorded it. These guys have worked out how to fix cancer. They've worked it out, but they can't get it out there. They have the knowledge to fix cancer. I'm not saying cure because the minute you say the word cure, you get, oh, everybody, but that's what's going on. It's just absolutely absurd. And there they were in that building behind you, ready to talk to the politicians who would listen. They could have had a full briefing. Now, I watched a presentation that Jared Rennick did 2022 where he chipped Sarah Hanson-Young and that Waters bird from Greens because they were laughing and mocking the vaccine injured, and making light of it. He ate them alive with the data, and they told him to stop going on with a load of rubbish. They glazed over. They wouldn't have a clue. Sarah Hanson Young wouldn't know if her jeans are on fire, John.
No,
She
no.
wouldn't have a clue. And then, can we remember that time when she was in Senate estimates quizzing the Navy on how they waste money?
Mhm.
And she talked about that program Border Force or whatever it was.
Oh yeah. Well,
And she said, how come you're using our ships and everything to film this stuff for television and you're not spending the money we're giving you wisely?" And they said, "No, we're not involved in that. That's like a Channel 9 production. It's a set, you know."
she wasn't interested in Brad Hazard uh, giving out the ICU at Campbelltown to home and away. Eh? She wasn't
Oh,
asking him.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. She wasn't here.
Ah,
These people are irrelevant. They are absolutely irrelevant, John. But anyhow, they're there and we have to deal with them for the next 3 years. So great news out of Queensland. It's on the front page of the Courier Mail, or it's in the
yeah.
first couple of pages of the Courier Mail. It's big news.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the incoming commissioner in New South Wales, whoever that may be, can strike a blow in this regard and get rid of this nonsense, this 181D that has been completely misunderstood, completely misapplied, and call all these frontline heroes like Justin Paul, Natalie Vassallo, etc., back to work
Yeah.
immediately with compensation. I mean, it's been an absolute disgrace. Um, get them back on the front line. We're short of police. We're short of emergency services. Listen, just do the right thing. I mean, all your own government information is essentially demanding that you do this now. I mean, it's completely
Yeah.
ridiculous that you're not.
Well, John, heaps of police in New South Wales. We've got 40 plus paramedics in Queensland in the same boat as yourself, still not back at work,
Yeah.
desperate to go back to work. A lot of them are thinking, why would we want to work for that organisation again? But we need these people back in there. We've got 40 plus to 50 firefighters in Victoria still fighting, and they're in the Fair Work Commission. And who are they fighting, John? Not Fire and Rescue Victoria, who are happy to have them back from what we're being told. The union,
Marshall.
the flat battery man, holler for a marshal. He is fighting, and you can't help but wonder why. Well, we do know. We can guess, can't we?
Yeah,
Because
sure.
these guys have formed an alliance called the Australian Firefighters Alliance. They're another union. Membership numbers in the Union of Firefighters in Victoria is falling, going down. Peter Marshall is losing confidence of his members, and he doesn't want these guys back in because they represent a jolt to his little system, his little kingdom that he's built up. Peter Marshall, you're a grub. You don't fight your own men in the Fair Work Commission. That's a
Mm.
grubby act. Anyhow, what can we say?
Not much you can say about that. That's as bad as it gets.
Now, we're going to play this little clip from Chris Smith in a minute, but Qantas, John.
Yeah.
Um, Qantas, we're told reliably from within, that they want to do a great reset. They want to reset their image. Now, I have it from reliable sources inside Qantas that the heavy maintenance base in Tullamarine in Melbourne, which is basically a storage hangar for Jetstar, is being completely reopened, revamped, and they're putting 30 engineers in there, and they're actively recruiting for engineers to do the heavy maintenance that they've been getting done overseas back in Australia. Now that was set up by Alan Joyce. He got rid of all of that. We had the best. I've been in that facility. There's a big jet engine test cell there. I've been there when Airbuses have been getting a full D check, where they strip them down to the rivets. And what a facility! They had everything going from upholstery shops through to instrument makers, airframe fitters, electronics. All the talent was there. There was a big training organisation there where they were training apprentices, and this that was built by TAA in the old days and Australian Airlines when I was there. And I can tell you, it was second to none. Now
Mm,
they're reinstating it, and hopefully this is a turnaround because nothing will get you a rebuild image better, Vanessa Hudson, than restoring what Qantas used to be. And this is a major step forward. So I want to congratulate you for that. I'm hoping this is as a result of a new chairman of the board, because the last one, Lee Clifford, he's gone. Good riddance to him. Um, and I'm hoping that that's going to happen. But there are some things happening, Vanessa Hudson, inside of Qantas that are very, very damaging and they're disturbing. And they centre in your HR department and your IR department, Industrial and Human Relations, and your legal team, because they have been victimising pilots and flight attendants and engineers on sick leave,
mm,
fighting terminal illness to get well enough to come back to work. And some of those have been fired indiscriminately, while others are being cherry picked and given leave without pay, John.
mm.
So in other words, let's say we're both Qantas pilots, and I'm a guy that doesn't get on well with everybody, and you are. You decided not to get vaccinated because you're chronically ill with something and you're fighting cancer, right? And
No.
your oncology team has said, no, no, don't do anything to damage your immune system. Let's just get you fixed. And then you can come back to work after we get you fixed. So you contact the company and you say to them, I can't get vaccinated now, but at the minute I get the all clear on my cancer and I can return to work, I will get vaccinated then so I can come back to work. And the company, the chief pilot, says to you, Johnny, all right, well, so we'll put you on leave without pay until that's done. Is that okay? Because you've used all your sick leave. And you
How
go,
long do you need?
eh?
How long do you need?
How long do you need? What can we do? Now,
Yeah, what can
I
we
used
do
to
for
work,
you?
the Qantas I used to work for before this Joyce regime were like that. It was how long do you need? It's
Mm.
okay. Don't worry. Leave it to us. I've seen them do welfare really well. So they say, yeah, Johnny, you've always been a team player. We love you. So we'll do that for you. Then I ring him up and I say to the chief pilot, G'day, Dick. I won't say anymore. Um, G'day, Dick. Listen, I'm fighting cancer at the moment. The oncologist reckons I've got a fair chance in 6 months of getting back to work. What I'll do is I can't get the vaccine by the deadline, but I'll get it when I come back, when I'm ready to come back to work, so we're all squared away because I don't want to jeopardise my chances. And Dick says, no, mate, I'm sorry.
Nah.
No, no. The rules require that we terminate your employment based on gross misconduct.
If we do that for you, Woody, we've got to do it for everyone.
That's right. So then that said pilot says, hang on a second, Dick. If you give me a termination letter based on gross misconduct, I won't get a job in aviation anywhere in the world. Well, I'm
Oh.
sorry, but they're the rules.
Mm.
That's what's been going on in Qantas. The so-called good guys are getting, it's okay, mate. Don't worry about it. We'll keep you on leave without pay. But anybody who hasn't been towing the company line on some issues, no way in
Mm.
the world. Where's the union been for them, Johnny?
Oh,
Where has
unions. Ah, ah,
the Australian International Pilots Association? Where have you
ah.
guys been for these fellas?
Oh.
Nowhere to be seen. Nowhere to be seen.
Ah.
Now, we know that guys have been challenged on their sickbed in hospital to
Mm.
provide documents for the HR department at Qantas to do their job,
Yeah.
which is ostensibly to destroy these human beings, because HR stands for Human Remains Department. And there have been, I am reliably told, people in management within Qantas who've been issuing these orders to terminate pilots and cabin crew who have personally written to senior management saying, we think this is immoral. We think this is wrong. We don't know that we can do this any longer. Now, Vanessa Hudson, um, I love Qantas. Australia loves Qantas. And I want you to reset the image of Australia's Qantas. I would love to see you do that. But you're being penny wise and pound foolish, because if you did the right thing, like look at the $120 million that those baggage handlers are still waiting for from compensation. Vanessa, why are you delaying that? You're going to have to pay it anyway. What are you waiting for? That they're all going to die. See, if you're doing that, then you're following the worst piece of industrial relations and legal advice that you could possibly follow if you want to reset the image of Qantas, because you've got departments in Qantas that are actively working to destroy your image. And people like us are going to make it public. We're going
Yeah.
to make it public, Vanessa. So, look, I hear you're a pretty fair snoozer. I hear that you're very approachable. I'm asking you, Vanessa Hudson, to come on this program and give Qantas a fair go. Tell us what you're really going to do to fix the ills of Qantas. And I would make some suggestions to you. I would sack your HR department. I would sack your industrial relations department, and I'd give your legal firm another good look at, because they're people who are undermining your reputation
Yeah.
in the back room while you're out the front trying to rebuild it. It's counterproductive, Vanessa. So
Well, and the other thing is too, I wouldn't be letting anyone tell you to buy an aeroplane that's never flown one, because these aeroplanes you're buying, they're lemons.
they
They're
are.
lemons.
They are. John, they can't, they're having engine problems with these new Airbuses.
Those
Uh,
220s, in fact, it's funny you say that, Hoodie. I was speaking to a very senior manager from an overseas airline in the last week, and they told me they've got a number of these 220s with the Pratt& and Whitney geared engines, and they're continually having engine failures.
yep.
Now, this is a real concern, and apparently because of the uh, the differences between the two planes, because they've tried to basically mix and match a Bombardier with an Airbus. It's not that simple to fly. So it's creating a few issues, and coupled with all these other things I'm hearing, like you've had to buy a whole heap of 737s off Singapore Airlines
Yep.
because you cannot fly these A320s into Christchurch um, because of weight. Well, who makes these dumb decisions?
Bean counters, Johnny. Bean counters. And sadly, I believe personally, the upper echelon of Qantas flight operations management are just puppets.
Mm,
There was a time when chief pilots and operations managers had teeth. You know, they're administering the license the airline has to operate with the authorities, CASA and Air Services Australia and the like. But these guys have just become little yes men.
mm,
You
mm.
know, I remember back in the day where a chief pilot was someone you looked up to.
Yep.
You know, I go back to my days in Bush Pilot Airways in Cairns when I was flying the DC-3. We had a chief pilot by the name of Cole Shedden who's just turned 100 in a retirement village. And he was a man we loved and respected. You know, in aviation, and Foxy would back me up on this. Foxy was a chief pilot in Tiger, and they loved him. They all loved him. They respected him because he did his job. He wasn't a corporate board crawler
Mm.
like some of these blokes have become now. And they
Big.
seem to hang around. The other thing in Qantas, John, let me tell you, this is what happens in Qantas. If you want a management job in flight operations, you become the president of the union. first. Now, there was the one president of the union recently moved on, a guy called Nathan Safe. He was the first officer who became president of the Australian International Pilots Association. And he was in negotiations arguing with Qantas Flight Operations Management for better salary and conditions for pilots. You know what he's doing now? He's on the other side of the table at these discussions because he's now got a cushy job in management in Qantas.
Oh.
A great many of Qantas's chief
Uh,
pilots were former presidents of the pilots union, John.
yeah. Mm.
Can it be any more corrupt than that? And they wonder, like guys like me, I wasn't a member of the International Pilots Association for 15, 16 years, nearly 20 years before I resigned. Because they want 1% of your salary and they weren't worth it. They were just fighting over car park spaces in Sydney. They were doing nothing. They were doing nothing. People with real grievances, people who were being hammered by the Remains Department in Qantas were getting no protection from the union at all. So,
That was demonstrated in every workplace during COVID. The unions went to water. What did you do?
yeah.
Jared Hardy's from the Health Services Union. What did you do, Jared? What did you do to protect all those medical professionals in New South Wales from being sacked? What did you do? Did you do anything?
Look, the ASU, Australian Services Union, they represent a lot of airline workers. Interesting organisation. And lo and behold, one of their employees, a 21-year-old girl, has worked in their office at the ASU, is now elected the youngest elected senator in Australia. A 21-year-old girl that worked for the Australian Service Union. I'm not doubting her ability or her, none of that. But what do we really need 21-year-olds running the country now, John? I mean, the mind boggles. Anyhow,
My,
let's not get upset because it's been a pretty good week.
it has been a
Everyone's
good.
raving about the joint effort we did with Jason and Nicola yesterday, mate. That is going off. People are loving that. I think there's going to be a lot more happening in that space.
They're real good guys too.
Oh, great guys, and their news service, the Daily Australian, is a really good quality product, and they're pumping out good news and a lot of stuff from America because Jason's got a real link up with all of that. And with everything going on in the world, we need to get all this good information out to as many people as possible. We're on the brink of a war. I
Oh,
mean,
sin.
look
Yeah.
at what Ukraine did the other day when they did that audacious strike on the Russian Air Force. I mean, mate, $300 drones bringing down a nuclear bomber.
Mm.
I mean, the world's changed, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's a different world, no doubt about it.
And Donald Trump comes out today and says he was talking to Vladimir Putin, and Vlad says he's going to strike back at Ukraine. I
Mm.
mean, who does that? Who
What?
does? Who says that? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we've said it before: Ukraine, Russia, um, Israel, Palestine, all these things are vexatious issues. But what
Mm.
we're all losing track of is all the innocent people caught in the middle.
That's the problem. Yeah.
You dare not say anything against Israel anywhere,
Mm.
um, or anything in defense of the innocent Palestinians who are being slaughtered over there, because you'll be shut down.
Mm.
So while we're all playing politics about who's right and who's wrong, who's in the middle? Who's in the middle? Imagine all those people behind you and I in these photographs, John, all sitting there wondering if an Israeli Defence Force bomb is going to fall on them, or a Russian missile is going to hit them, or
Well, at the moment, Hoodie, the person in the middle is Greta Thunberg on a boat.
tell me more.
Was she sailing in there on some boat
Where's she sailing into?
into Gaza?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so. Something.
Is she going to land on the beach at Gaza, with like Joan of Arc?
Oh, well, maybe she's bringing a few solar panels to help everyone.
She's
Uh,
sailing in there on a boat. Well, I tell you what, having seen her in action, I'd be terrified if I was BB Netanyahu. Hey, you don't want to be fronting up with her, BB. I tell you what.
oh dear.
And look, I'm beyond caring whether people like what I say or not, but I've got to tell you that I think it's reprehensible that tens of thousands of innocent people, innocent, like not everyone in Gaza is a terrorist, for goodness sake. I mean,
Mm,
if that passes your standard of a moral compass, and Charlie Kirk wouldn't like me saying this because he's very pro-Israel, then I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Look, I'm sorry for what happened on October 7. I'm sorry for the innocents, again, the people who are caught up in that. And I'm sorry for the innocents caught up in this latest offensive as well. I mean, what was it? 35 innocent people gunned down the other
mm.
day in Gaza that were waiting at a food distribution hub to get some relief. I mean, it's just if
It
that
almost it's almost like Hoodie that we need an independent army to go in there and just sort the terrorists out. Um,
you're not talking blue helmets, are you, Johnny? You're not talking United Nations,
Blue helmets,
hey?
cooker helmets. That's what I reckon. Give the tinfoil hats on.
Fair dinkum. Do you not remember when the UN used to do that?
I used to. Mm,
They went into Rwanda and look what happened. They couldn't do anything. They were toothless tigers. They sat there watching people being hacked to death.
mm. Yeah, well,
I
look,
get it.
you just can't allow all these people to be murdered on our watch. It's a bad look.
And I'm wondering too, Johnny, the mentality of the Ukrainian government on the eve of having peace talks in Turkey with Russia.
Mm,
They unleash a drone attack that wipes out half the strategic bomber force in Russia, deep inside Russian territory, and then not expect Russia to react. I mean, do you want peace or do you not want peace? So once again, the complexities of who's right and wrong and all of that, it doesn't matter. It's the millions of people caught in the middle. There are hundreds of thousands of families in Ukraine and in Russia who are grieving the loss of their sons and daughters at the battlefield. Hundreds of thousands. It just and we just think, oh, well, that's on the other side of the world. That doesn't bother us. You know what I mean? It's just unbelievable.
I mean, it's not dissimilar to what's going on with the jabs, Woody. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of people that are getting turbo cancers, cardiac issues, all these illnesses, and they don't even understand why they're sick.
I spoke to a lady today whose mother, brother, and sister have all been vaccinated and they've all got cancer.
Yeah.
We can't deny it anymore. We
No.
can't deny it anymore. And we've been consistent on this.
Mm,
We've been rational. We've been consistent. We have presented the very best in the field to
mm.
present another argument. We have given evidence in the Senate, John.
And
You
do you
and I.
remember when when you were at school, Hoodie? Do you remember kids being sick with cancers and like?
I remember polio and thalidomide.
Mm,
I remember that. But cancer, no. I'll tell
no.
you, Johnny, a good indicator was the Starlight Foundation. Now, when I was flying for TAA, Qantas Australian Airlines, we had a lot of kids come on flights who were pretty much like the Make a Wish Foundation. They were doing their bucket list before they died, and you would get probably one or two of those a month,
Mm,
and you'd see the odd 9-year-old with no hair, obviously from chemo, and but now it's gone through the roof. It has absolutely gone through the roof,
mm. Well,
and they're finding cancers. Who gets cancer in the heart?
I know.
Well, I heard of one of those today.
Mm,
A 4-year-old got a 4-year-old child who got cancer of the kidney. Coincidentally, the mother was vaccinated just prior to the child's birth. So, Johnny, it's a mess. But let's have a listen. We'll have a listen to what Chris Smith had to say, eh?
Indicated earlier this week, and I have indicated on other platforms of media, my avid promotion of COVID jabs during the pandemic was wrong. I took the words of eminent immunologists as gospel and compelled people to believe what health officials were telling us, to take all the jabs. Of course, it was the former Queensland Chief Health Officer, Jeanette Young, who first sounded the alarm about what was going on in Australia, about anyone under 40 taking the jabs. Remember that? She was asked the question directly in a press conference in June 2021.
Yep.
No, I'm sorry if I haven't made that clear. No, I do not want under 40s to get AstraZeneca because they are at increased risk of getting they're rare, it is rare, but they're at increased risk of getting that rare clotting syndrome. We've seen up to 49 deaths in the UK from that syndrome. I don't want an 18-year-old in Queensland dying from a clotting illness who, if they got COVID, probably wouldn't die.
Now, at the time, you'll recall she was castigated by all and sundry for those comments, but not because she was wrong, but it conflicted, you see, with the crazy campaign by government to make sure we reached record levels of COVID vaccination. Well, have a guess what we found overnight. A glaring and belated official admission from the Federal Department of Health and Aged Care warning against under 18-year-old Australians from receiving the COVID-19 vaccine. You heard right. I have a digital copy of the official recommendation in front of me here. The headline reads, healthy infants, children and adolescents aged under 18 years are not recommended to receive COVID-19 vaccine. COVID-19 vaccine is not recommended for healthy infants, children or adolescents who do not have medical conditions that increase their risk of severe illness. This is because the risk of severe illness was extremely low in this cohort over the course of the pandemic, and benefits of vaccination are not considered to outweigh the potential harms. No word on the harms and no detail given. Dated June 3, 2025. Now, let me point out precisely what these potential harms are, given the fact that Jeanette Young was onto this back in June 2021. The Health Department does not, in this new recommendation, explain what the harms are. As Jeanette Young indicated, there was clear evidence of blood clotting in young people who took the jab during the pandemic. But did the Federal Health Department, or the Morrison government for that fact, echo those warnings at the time? No, no way. Because that would fly in the face of everything we were ordered to do. They wanted the public to be frightened and scared about catching COVID-19, not about having dangerous levels of blood clotting or other cardiac diseases, which we've also seen in various studies have inflicted young people in their adolescent years, which all major studies since the pandemic have detected and shown to be more prevalent than what Big Pharma assured governments worldwide. That New Zealand study, mainstream study of 99 million cases worldwide, showed that there were far more observed injuries created from COVID vaccines than what was expected. It's only taken health officials here 4 years to admit their error and recommend that under 18s avoid taking COVID jabs. 4 years. As I said earlier this week, we were conjuring COVID in so many ways, and the fact that so many of the current band of politicians urged children to take the jabs at the time should tell you all you need to know about their sincerity or lack of. It is the reason why you won't hear any of them today step forward to inform the public of this new recommendation, and neither will the compliant media.
Good on you, Chris Smith. How good was that?
Yeah,
Come on,
magnificent.
Carl.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, the Today Show and all these other, they've got to start coming out, haven't they? I mean, we can't stop talking about, keep talking about Richard Wilkins's hairstyle for the next 10 years. I mean, fair income, somebody's got to strike a blow.
Look, they ought to bring Koshy out of his cushy retirement and put him with Natalie Barr and replay that horrendous Christmas thing they put out about how to treat your non-vaxxed family members at Christmas. The most disgusting piece of television I have ever witnessed in my life. Can you remember that?
Yeah, shocker. Yeah.
That with Natalie Barr, for goodness sake, and that condescending piece of work on Channel 9. What was the name that gave Craig Kelly a hard time?
Yeah.
See how easily we forget them.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Carl, come on. Come on. If you've got any credibility, Nick Coatsworth, you're there. You've got one foot in the water. Come out and go the whole hog, Nick Coatsworth.
Mm.
Come on.
Well, he's not even responding to texts now. I mean, I've had the odd dialogue with him on text, but I sent him a couple recently. He hasn't responded.
So same here. Same here. He was responding to me a bit over the last few months, but nothing more. See, they know now's not the time to go to ground. Look at Chris Smith.
Mm.
He's come out. I mean, Magda.
Well, and in fairness to Chris, I mean, Chris has been pounding the pavement for quite some time. I have seen some comments online which are a bit disingenuous. I mean, I'm with you on this. I think, Hoodie, that when somebody sees that they've made an error and is remorseful and genuine about, I think we need to forgive them. And Chris is, in that camp as far as I'm concerned. I've seen a few comments, with, oh, it's a bit late now, and but I mean, he has been pounding the pavement on TNT radio for quite some time before the 2SM startup. And to his credit, I mean, he could have not started back at 2SM and started highlighting all this, because I mean, it's probably a bit of a risk. But he's done the right thing, and he's been honest, and it's the truth. I think that's what he said. It's the truth, and that's all it is. It's the truth. I mean, let's how else do you want to portray all this? It's the truth. It's as simple as that.
And look, Ben Fordham, he's got a foot in the water. He
Yeah.
needs to get in a bit deeper. I can understand their position, but we were all in a bad position once, weren't we, John? And look at what you're doing now. I mean, for goodness sake, we've still got an opportunity to do something good out of all of this. And there's an opportunity for these guys to step up and actually revise the way history will review them in the future.
The real disappointment is the ABC. I mean, realistically, I mean, they should have been the ones that have been leading the way on this. I mean, the 7:30 report.
All corners.
All corners. They're the organisations, they're the media outlets that should really have been doing the hard yards on this. But it just demonstrates just how the lack of independence really between government and the ABC, SBS and the like, because they really have been in lockstep. Everyone's been in lockstep, whether they're being paid by Big Pharma or governments are just in the pockets of Big Pharma. They've essentially made decrees to these media outlets that they will do as they're told.
Yeah, these media outlets have let us down. I mean, the governments have definitely let us down. Even the churches, John, have let us down. The churches were terrible. The churches were terrible.
Well, that last Pope, he was a joke. I mean, what were they here? They were lauding him. And I tell you, he was a disgrace. Absolute bloody disgrace. I mean, what more do you want to say?
There you go, and you're a Catholic.
It's an absolute disgrace. Progressive. I tell you, I'll give you a progressive. I mean, fancy coming up with the nonsense that idiot was coming up with, saying, oh, well, if Jesus was alive, he'd want you to be vaccinated. I mean, far out.
But mate, look, the more I look into this, the more I see how deeply entrenched the papacy is in all the disasters we've had in the last few centuries. They have a socialist agenda. Rerum Novarum. I think I said it the other night. Rerum Novarum, the encyclical of Pope Leo XIII, who was back in about 1900, wrote Rerum Novarum. And that's been the foundation of every encyclical every pope's written since then. And it's all a social doctrine, which lines up beautifully with Klaus Schwab, where even the Pope says, you will own nothing, but you will be happy.
Mm.
That you don't have the right to stop anyone from coming into your house and stealing your goods if their needs are greater than yours. Anyone who doubts it, look up Rerum Novarum. You can Google it. You can have a read of it. You can ask about social justice. It'll all come up there. I mean, the richest organisation on the planet is telling everybody to give up their goods and their property and not say anything about it.
Now look at that Anthony Fisher. He wouldn't even return a phone call.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very good human beings. I mean, you ring multiple times and they can't even be bothered returning a telephone call. This is the sort of people you're dealing with, unfortunately, Hoodie.
Well,
My,
woke churches are the problem, John. Woke churches need to go broke. If they go woke, they need to go broke because they are instigating social agendas at the expense of their mission and purpose. In other words, they've sold out. You're meant to come for those people in faith. I come to Jesus to be changed, to change me, and it's done. That my journey's been fantastic in that regard. But churches are now bowing. They're bowing to the people. The churches are changing to suit the people coming in. And that's not what it's about. People are meant to come into the church as broken as they are. It's a hospital for sinners. They get fixed up, they get healed because of a relationship with Jesus Christ. The whole gospel has been thrown out by every Christian church. Every single one of them has thrown the gospel out.
And they got more money than most of the governments around the world, and they can't even find it in themselves to sell an asset or take out a withdrawal and help the homeless.
And
That's
yet
how
they
good.
preach this social doctrine. They preach this social doctrine. When you line up all the people involved in this Illuminati rubbish that we've been talking about for a long time, the Club of Rome, which is the papacy, is right in the middle of it.
Mm.
Zionism is right in the middle of it. Freemasonry is right in the middle of it. The Jesuit order is right in the middle of it. You just study the history. Go back through the history and look at why these organizations were set up. The Jesuit order was set up as a counter-Reformation movement to destroy the Reformation. Was it a coincidence that the Reformation, the Protestant Reformation was ended in 2017 officially by Pope Francis when he got all the evangelical churches in America to come to Rome and say the protest is over, come back to Mother Church. And they all said yes. They all said yes. Now think about it. Ignazio Loyola, who was the founding member of the Jesuit order back in the 1500s, about 10 years after Martin Luther nailed up his thesis on the door of Wittenberg Church, they were set up to destroy the Reformation, the Protestant Reformation, because it had already taken off. The Bible had been printed. People were seeing the gospel the way it really was. They were listening to masses not in Latin, but in their own native language. And people were starting to wake up that the papacy was destroying Christianity for its own personal gain. And isn't it ironic that the only pope who was ever a Jesuit was there at 2017, the 500th anniversary of the Protestant Reformation? He was the only Jesuit pope that ever existed in Rome, and he was there to do the job of ending the Reformation. And he did it. And the Jesuit order were given 500 years to end the Reformation. Now, it's all in the history books, folks. You can study it all for yourself. It's called a Hegelian dialectic. And what that means is all these people who you would think would be at odds with one another, they create these problems in order that they get a solution that they're all happy with. And that's exactly what's being played out. I tell you, the last few months, ever since we started talking to Trevor Loudon, there's so much of his research that all makes sense. It just clicks into place. It's incredible. I want to get him back on to talk about more of that stuff because
Definitely.
we've got to know who our enemies are and where they're being fed from.
Mm.
Anyway, did I go too deep then?
Oh, you can never go too deep, Hoodie. Look, I just say, I like to keep it simple, but at the end of the day, there's kids out there that are homeless and hungry, and if you just look at it in a simple term like that, what are these churches? I mean, I know there's a lot of good churches out there that are doing a lot of good stuff, but I mean, they've
Yeah.
got all these multi-millions and billions in the bank, and they're doing bugger all with it when they could be doing so much to help people, and they're not.
Now, I'm not bagging on local churches, the local churches. I'm bagging on the corporate leaderships of the denominational churches out there.
Yeah.
And every single one of them, everyone, even the one I'm a member of, has got blood on its hands. Every single one. And a lot of church going Christians are deciding whether they hang around and support their loved, beloved churches in coming back on the right path, on the straight path. And I think that's a great thing to do. We shouldn't abandon churches. We've got to make sure we stay in there to correct them. Or they're starting home church groups. And to that end, a lot of people are availing themselves of that on our Church Without Walls site, churchwithoutwalls.com.au. There's the Hoodie's Bible Study Network. There's a lot of people getting Bible studies from volunteers who are taking them through that process. So go to hoodiesbiblestudies.com and you can link up with people in your state who will guide you through Bible studies to help you get confidence in your journey in faith. And there's a lot of people doing that now because we've lost faith in everything else. Who do we have faith in anymore? We've got to come back to our traditional roots. We've got to come back to God. I mean, we've seen the Bible and we've seen God cancelled in this cancel culture. Can we say we're a better society for that or worse?
Mm.
I mean, are we better because this has happened or are we worse off? We've got to come back to our traditional roots. We've got to come back to the roots that the founding fathers had in our country when they wrote the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution in 1901. They were God-fearing men who based all their principles of constitutional law on biblical principles, and they worked. It's only when men get involved and distort it that it all runs off the rails. We've got to come back to basics. Anyway, as Abraham Lincoln said, I could preach a shorter sermon, but once I start, I'm too lazy to stop.
Oh.
Oh, they're going to rag on me. They will. They'll be
You'd love to meet Abraham.
Abraham Lincoln.
Mm. Be a character, wouldn't he?
Oh, man. What an incredible guy. Why do the Yanks bump off the good guys?
You're right.
Anyway, all right. Well, let's urge Fair Work Australia to do the right thing in Victoria for the firefighters. Just to close, talking to Jan and Dale Mitchell, our friends in Victoria at Wangaratta, mate, Victoria's in a really bad way with the drought, and we're up here getting more rain than we can poke a stick at. We at our place here, we've had over a metre of rain in 4 months,
Wow.
and we just everything's water's running out of everything you can imagine. There's water all over the place, and yet just south of Sydney, it's bonkers dry, mate. You're dry where you are.
Dry, yep. You got flathead on your front lawn and yeah.
But Jan and Dale Mitchell, you'll remember we interviewed them when they were doing flood relief work in Victoria about 2 years ago.
Yep.
They were the really good farmers in Victoria that were running around collecting goods and chattels and taking them around to all the flood affected farmers and getting them back started again. Now they've got not a blade of grass on the ground anywhere. It's dire. It is absolutely dire, and they're running out of feed, and they can't get feed from anywhere.
Mm.
They can't afford to, it costs too much. Albanese, come on. That bloke said to him the other day, I think up in Taree, when are you going to put Australia before these other countries and look after your own country?
They haven't even declared the federal government, Hoodie, hasn't even declared the drought. Sorry, the flood event up there as bad as the Lismore one. And so it means that they're not entitled to a whole heap of provisions and funding.
Will you tell the people in Taree and Wingham that?
Mm.
You know, I've got a mate of mine who's a pastor there, mate. They've never seen floods like this.
I reckon it's worse than Lismore.
It is worse than Lismore. We've got a mate who lives up the Manning River, and she's lost about 20% of her land, has been washed out to sea.
Wow.
What was rich grazing land is now gone. There's just stones and creek beds everywhere. It'll never be replaced. She only just bought in there. All gone. I mean, and where's all that topsoil going? I mean, it's just, anyhow. Let's pray, eh? Father in heaven, we just want to thank you, Lord, for giving us opportunities to speak about the things of this world, and for those of us who believe in you, Lord, there's comfort in knowing that you're still in control, and we know how this ends. And spoiler alert for everybody out there, God wins. So, Father, we thank you that we have that knowledge, and we thank you for the truth that you bathe us in the light of, and we pray that we can spread that as far and wide as we can. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right. You must have been heard to say.
You just couldn't make this stuff up.
You couldn't make this stuff up. God bless you, everybody. Sorry to bring religion into it for some of you. I know it upsets some of you, but a lot of people like it too. So let's all cut each other a bit of slack. And don't forget, it's a great country because you live in it. And we get through this with compassion, and we get through it really well. So if you love this country, stand for it, everyone. God bless you, and we'll see you next week on Club Grubbery. Bye for now.